Primarily, I would say GRC is all about trust. Building trust in the organization, building trust in the controls, building trust in the setup. It is true, unfortunately, that people do consider this to be a checkbox. It is what I would call a reactive approach. Plus, organizations do run the risk of having any exposure to any malpractice, exposure to any internal risk, then become a significant embarrassment for the organization. Number one, it is going to make it more predictive.
Welcome back to OnPointAlways. In one of our episodes, we talked about the big picture of digital transformation, how enterprises are embracing new technologies to modernize and innovate. But as we all know, transformation is not just about speed; it's about trust, governance, and ensuring that innovation doesn't outpace the control. That's why today's conversation is so important. I'm excited to be joined by Sagar Javkhedkar, co-founder of Aria Technologies, a company that has developed innovative products like Quick Audit, Quick Manage, designed to address SAP Governance, risk and compliance, commonly known as GRC challenges. With over 2 decades of experience in ERP consulting, leadership roles at firms like KPMG, and over a decade of building successful technology ventures, Sagar brings a unique perspective on how GRC is evolving and why it matters now more than ever in a digital transformation journey. Sagar, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Samir. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Now, you worked in a lot of consulting companies and big consulting companies, big consulting firms, and now as a product entrepreneur. From your perspective, why is GRC such a critical enabler in the enterprise space?
Primarily, I would say GRC is all about trust. Building trust in the organization, building trust in the controls, building trust in the setup, and this is something that makes it very important in any initiative that the organization undertakes, especially in the digital transformation that enterprises aim to look at. The idea is to ensure that controls are considered while this transformation activity happens.
Mhm.
And this is where it takes an important place in any journey of the organization.
Now, many
Mhm.
organizations still consider GRC as a checkbox,
Mhm.
merely a checkbox. How do you see this as a strategic enabler in an organization, not just a purely checkbox?
Hey, while it is true, unfortunately, that people do consider this to be a checkbox, it is what I would call a reactive approach.
Hmm.
When organizations consider this as a checkbox activity, saying compliance is something that they also need to achieve. It is a checkbox activity, but compliance is something that is non-negotiable. It is and therefore having it as a proactive enabler for any business continuity or growth is of prime importance. And hence I would consider this to be more of a strategic pillar that every organization needs to look at, rather than saying it to be a checkbox or a tick box an activity. I also need to comply. You don't also need to comply. Compliance has to be built in the activity that you undertake.
So it can't be an afterthought like a lot of places I see.
Yeah, it cannot be. It cannot be because if it is an afterthought, it is always something that will never work. Then you will have to put in fixes, you will have to put in justifications, you will have to put in additional mitigating controls, and it becomes more of an expensive affair. Plus, organizations do run the risk of having any no exposure to any malpractice, exposure to any internal risk, which
Hmm.
then becomes a significant embarrassment for the organization.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what are some of the big challenges companies and organizations are facing
Mhm.
when implementing risk governance and compliance in the SAP or any other enterprise space, enterprise platform?
Yeah, the challenge stems from the fact that it is things are getting complex. It is not easy. Number
Hmm.
one, things are not getting simpler. Uh, the way data is handled, the way information is handled, the way access is granted, the way systems have evolved, things are becoming complex. And then having people understand these complexities, understand the risks, is not something that is very easy. And that is one of the biggest challenges, having the right people, and having the right set of assessment by the organization in place is the key challenge that would primarily face. The second challenge that you would see is most of the functions in the organization are siloed functions,
Hmm.
as you would see. Now they're siloed. Controls are then concentrated in one area. The other areas typically are less controlled because there is a less perceived threat. Normally, in focus is all the procurement and the finance area. Always, these are the ones who will be having a lot of controls that they have to comply with. And then the other functions, though they contribute to financial statements, though they contribute to financial accounts, though they contribute to stock and other areas, they are sometimes left out in the entire activity. So it is not a comprehensive assessment that happens, and that's why I would say siloed functions also becomes one of the challenges. And then the third one that I would say is even now companies rely more on manual heavy processes
Hmm.
because the trust in systems is still not there where it should be in terms of
Hmm.
getting assurance from the controls that are established. Uh, and these are the challenges even now is what I see. Even now, when we're talking about AI, we're talking about a lot of new initiatives coming in. The trust factor also has to go up in the systems.
So, is one of the factors not only siloed, but some of the processes are not part of the system? Is that also a challenge, you
That would
think?
also be a challenge. Yes, that is also a challenge, which is where I came to that manual heavy process in some areas. You would
Hmm.
have some activities which are not in the same system.
Hmm.
So yeah, so they would lead to addition of complexity of the entire setup as well.
Now, do traditional
Mhm.
traditional audit and compliance approaches, do they slow
Mhm.
down the digital transformation, or is that just a perception?
See, again, I would say audit in the purest form of the name of the audit is typically it will be done which will not be impacting the transformation activity. But the essence should be on building controls in the system rather than saying, so audit will not slow down any process. Audit will happen regardless. Audit will need to happen
Right.
before the transformation goes live, after the transformation is completed. You'll need to do an assessment. It will not slow down. However, getting there and then understanding there, doing those activities uh, typically slow down the processes. If uh, companies and organizations embark on digital transformation initiative, they come up with a plan, they come up with an approach, and then before the entire thing goes live, they are suddenly told that these are the compliance activities that you need to work on. Then some of the things may need to go back to drawing board. Some of the things may need to get skipped. Some of the things you need to live with because the limitations which are not understood before. And these are the challenges that you would face if it is not considered before the activity is embarked on.
So this goes back to your original statement. You were saying that it needs to be planned out. It needs to be planned out from the beginning itself. Can't be
Yeah,
an activity that is a transactional or afterthought. It needs to be
it
part of the process. Okay.
it has to be a
So
part
then
of the
it will make
process.
it correct.
Yeah.
Then you can anticipate what's coming, and then you can take it. So let's switch the gears. Let's talk about
Mhm,
your products. Quick
mhm,
suite of products
mhm,
that your company provides to all the customers. What's more specifically, let's talk about quick audit.
mhm,
What challenge, what problem do you hope to solve using this
mhm.
product, and how are customers using it today?
Okay. See, the quick suite of products is something that we envisaged when we embarked on the journey of building products. We created modular products to look at various aspects of controls that organizations need to look at. Starting with base level controls, which we call as pervasive controls. In terms of if these controls are not there, nothing else would matter. So, for example,
Hmm.
access controls. If somebody has say an SAP All Access, then regardless of how whatever controls you put into the system in your configuration will not be of no value, because that person can change the configuration
Mm.
or make changes to the configuration. So we focused on a product called Quick Audit, which looks at the access control part in various ERP systems like SAP, Oracle, EBS, JD Edwards. Likewise, uh, look at couple of things. Not only look at the traditional segregation of duties conflict, but also to look at privileged access, management of
Hmm.
privileged access, and also the configuration of security parameters that exist or that should exist in the system. What we also looked at is, rather than building a product that only customers can use,
Hmm.
we embarked on building a product that can be used by consulting companies, implementation companies, and also customers, both, all
As
of them,
part of their portfolio.
as a part of their portfolio. Primarily because the implementation companies are the ones who are responsible for implementing it. If they have tools
Sure.
with them, then they would be in a better position to deploy those controls,
Hmm.
rather than having deployed the solution and then knowing that certain issues exist. So they would have a ready toolkit enabling them. Consulting companies enable them to consult better, give them good insights as to where the issues lie and how they can be fixed. The idea is not to do a fault finding, but more on helping them assess and remediate things. And
Hmm.
that is where we embarked on. So Quick Audit essentially looks at the access control part. The second product that we have is in B Control, which looks at the configurable controls. So normally, complex ERPs like SAP, they're highly configurable in terms of the flexibility it may allow or the control it may allow, and then the restriction it may set in. Why it is kept so is because organizations, because of the nature of their business, would need certain flexibility in certain areas, because they cannot function if you make it too restrictive. But
Sure.
at the same time, enable people who want to be restricted to have restrictive controls.
Of
Things
course.
like tolerance limits, things like enabling enforcing three-way match, things like sensitive fields for vendor master and customer master and other areas. Those are available. If they use them, then they would be in a position to build in better preventive controls. If they
Sure.
don't enable, then they will have to rely more on detective controls. So what our tool does is essentially about 200 controls is what we check. Whether
Okay.
these controls are configured as per good practices. If they're not configured, then we would be in a position to highlight as to these controls are not configured. In case the intent of the organization is to enable those controls, they can do so. If they have different controls in place, or if they choose to go the manual way, they can still choose to do that. But at least giving them visibility of the risk that may exist. So that is the
Yeah.
second product in the journey. And then over encompassing these two products, we then built another product called Quick Control, which is an overall audit management tool, which can integrate with Quick Audit and B Control and get those automated testing done for configuration and access controls, and manual controls can also be audited. So essentially, we're building a journey. Companies can use them individually or severally, or consultants can use them as well.
Depending on their situation. And you talked about detectable control or preventable control. I think
Preventive
that's one
controls,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good distinction because a lot of times when I speak with our customers, I find they are more doing detectable. They are in that
Preventive
detectable
controls.
control scenario where it's after the fact, whereas what
Yeah.
you offer is more preventable right from the beginning, which is
Yes.
a great way to save time, money, and of course, company's reputation at some point in the worst case scenario. It's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
just to
valuable
give you
tool.
an example. Yeah, just to give
Sure.
you an example. Most of the risks come in because somebody changes, say, vendor master data.
Hmm.
Now, if somebody changes vendor master data and changes certain values in vendor master data, which may be important, which could be the alternate pay, which could be,
Sure.
the bank details and other areas.
Of
It
course.
could be the address, shipping address, anything that may be impacting. Now, if they don't deploy a check in place, a maker checker in place, it may go unnoticed.
Mm.
So you can enable and you can enforce those checks, is what you can have.
Can you share an example where your customers were benefited by one of these products? A quick audit specifically. Good
Mhm.
example.
The benefits happened in many areas, I would say. One area is we had customers who have been facing regular audit observations on controls after deploying or after using the products. They were able to assess and understand the issues beforehand and then fix them, plug them, put in mitigating controls. Some areas they were able to detect some anomalies in the processes they followed and then plug them in time. So these are some examples I can think of at the top of my head. Most of the cases, we have had good response from our customers where audit findings have come down significantly, and now it becomes it is not an event anymore. It is more acting as a safety net for them. So
Sure.
basically,
Yeah.
they so they are so they know it's there. It's been captured. It's been identified beforehand, and then our audit is never no longer an event that you have to. Everybody has to spend time and then
Yeah.
give responses.
These days, you can't go by without hearing about AI, generative AI. Not a single day, in some perhaps not a single
Mhm,
hour goes by.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
What do you see as the future of SAP or GRC in general, in SAP specifically, or enterprise
mhm.
IT, having this background?
Number one, it is going to make it more predictive and so in fact we are working on this for the past 6 months now. We're also working on an agentic AI solution for our products as well. And also working extensively on the risk management area using AI as to what we can do using the data that is available to see if you
Hmm.
can have any predictive analysis identified with AI. So definitely things are going to be, you're going to see a paradigm shift in the way the entire risk and governance practice is going to go.
Hmm.
It is going to what I would say is, it will be more of built-in and it'll look at preempting things before they happen. Like,
Sure.
for example, if somebody, you should be in a position to identify if somebody is able to, is planning to carry out or a transaction that he or she is not supposed to do. You
Mm.
should come to that stage, and then that is where you need to have enough points to identify, whether this person normally logs in at this time, whether this person normally logs in this terminal, whether he or she carry out this transaction at this point in time,
Hmm.
or is it an abnormal activity? Is it something that is not normal? You could no, the possibilities which are uh, endless of
Endless.
what
Yeah.
what we can do and what we can find out and what we can work on. One or two good use cases is something that will trigger off. And I'm sure 100, a lot of people are working on it. I'm not the only one. I mean, many people are working on this, and then there are very brilliant people and brilliant minds in the industry working on this.
Yeah.
So, in fact,
And
there is an event happening in India by International Audit Association where one of the themes and one of the topics is about AI and how it's going to help.
when is
Yeah,
this event coming up? Anytime soon?
the new event. Yeah, this event is in January, first, second week of January in India,
This weekend in
Mumbai.
India and Mumbai.
Mumbai.
Okay. Okay. And I hear you are hosting a panel. Is there going to be a panel discussion, or is
Uh,
that going to be a
no,
speech?
no, we are one of the sponsors, and we'll be having
Okay.
event stall and corner over there.
So great, you talked about this event. Can you tell us a little bit more about that event and tell our viewers how they can take part? If they cannot take part physically, can they join you with virtually and listen to you? Can
I
you
think
share
they
some
should because
details?
II is a global event. It is our International Association is a global body.
Hmm.
What we are doing for is the Mumbai chapter right now. In India, there is a India chapter and there is a global organization. They look at enhancing and then building in controls and then putting in good practices for the audit fraternity and then it's a wonderful event to attend to. You get to hear a lot of brilliant people, brilliant minds in who have shaped up how GRC and governance risk and compliance areas. are currently shaping up, bringing good practices from different areas, and it is definitely an problem there. So if you are interested in GRC, if you're interested in risk management, then I would be something that you should follow, and definitely there'll be a link. I will share a link with you if something that people can follow.
Yes, we'll definitely add it to the description of this podcast so that viewers who
Yeah.
would like to follow you, join you,
Mm,
or
mm,
really understand what this event is about
mm.
can certainly do so. So,
Perfect.
thank you for sharing that. And
Mm.
it looks like it's a great event. Who's who of GRC will be in Mumbai. So,
Yeah, there are great people.
okay,
I also I am looking forward to meeting a whole lot of them as well.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. How
Mhm,
should organization strike a good balance between
mhm.
innovation speed and governance rigor? Because obviously both are needed.
Yeah.
What do
So
you recommend?
yeah. So I would separate the audit and governance part. Audit is basically auditing what has
Sure.
happened, and they
True.
go to follow a scope of audit as to what it is. Governance is primarily building in a governing structure as to how would you like to govern the entire setup. Now, when you
True.
say we need governance to be in place, what do you need to be have in place? You need to ensure that just to list down a few things, you need to ensure that your compliance to your regulatory and statutory requirements are met. So anything the organization does should not be against the laws of the country that they operate in, which will be from the financial part or the regulatory part or the industry part. So now with GDPR coming in, for example, or DPDPA coming in
Sure.
India and many other laws, you need to ensure that you need to comply with those. Then organization will also have their own policies that the organization needs to follow. Though they may be okay from a regulatory perspective or statutory perspective. Organization policies, every organization will have its own policies.
True.
That's in there. And furthermore, there are process-related risks or controls that need to be followed and established. So these are some areas which go on to form a controls framework for organization. Now, this controls framework is something that will give a good governing structure. They act more like a guardrail rather
Hmm.
than acting as something that you have to do later on. So this is giving you a road. This is giving you, don't go here. It's like when you drive on the road, you see a signal, you see
Yeah.
a stop sign.
Hmm.
It is a guardrail.
Yeah.
It is not stopping you. It's not impeding you. It is ensuring that things move freely, and then everybody follows the same law, and then that's exactly what these controls need to be in place, and every organization needs to identify where do I need to put those guardrails in place, and that essentially is what your governance is all about.
Sure. And
And
I think
audit is to check whether these are in place.
certainly that's a good differentiation. And I think if it is done early on in a good way, in a planned way, then perhaps both
Correct.
can coexist. Innovation
Absolutely.
speed as well as governance rigor.
You will be able to innovate faster because you
You
know
know,
those guardrails. So,
correct, correct. And you don't have to worry about rogue elements that could take you off
correct.
road off course. What for all the leaders that are listening to the
Mhm.
podcast today? Is there any
Mhm.
advice that you would like to offer that would make compliance an enabler, not a bottleneck? We already talked about making it as part of the planning
Mhm.
process at the beginning. Is there any other thing that you can mention?
I'm sure most of them are on the with things coming in quite people are aware. The only my I would say the only thing that we need to dwell upon when we talk about it is it is not the cost of doing business. It is
Hmm.
more of a foundation for scaling the business. So the
Hmm.
mindset should move to a direction where you say, no, for me to scale my business, grow my business, make it efficient, I need to have governing structure in place. I need to have governance in place. I need to have controls in place. That will help me do this better. So moment you shift a focus in that direction, it becomes easier to adopt those controls and the governance structure.
And I think it's very much true with the AI innovations that are happening because you want to have those governance in place so that you don't, first of all, have
Yeah.
examples of hallucination and or rogue elements. You basically stay the course, make sure use the tools and techniques for the innovation that you're going for. So
Absolutely.
absolutely, it makes sense. Okay.
And you would not believe there is a lot of work going on in the risk space to
Uh-huh.
build in controls for AI, because it is a new area for everyone.
Sure.
And before jumping into the entire activity, every organization, and especially the large ones, are very wary about exposing their data out,
Hmm.
and not knowing what will lead to and where will it go. So,
Sure.
so there is a good amount of work, and very soon we will see some frameworks coming out on putting in and giving in guidance on what controls to be put in for AI solution. At the same time, maverick innovations continue happening, but those would be there, but to get them, for organizations to adopt them, you will need that to cross the bridge.
Sure. Sure.
Is what
And
how I see it.
correct. And I see evidence of this in public sector more because they are very careful about setting up those guardrails, setting up that governance first before taking on the innovation because they don't want to get distracted by governance later on. So I do see that with our public sector customers. All right.
Very true. Mhm.
Sagar, thank you for joining this fantastic discussion, very critical foundational component of any digital transformation. Now, if our users want to follow you and learn more about what's happening, your events that are coming up, how can they do that? How can they follow you or your company?
Yeah, I'm very much on LinkedIn. Even Aria Technologies is on LinkedIn, so you can share the links on the podcast. And if I would surely love to interact and meet a lot of brilliant minds in the space.
We'd love to hear more, and I'll be
Yeah.
sure to mention your AriaTech and your own LinkedIn in the description. Again, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful rest of the day to you too.